أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما
Hadith number 54 and hadith number 55. وللأربع عنه إلا النسائي أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مسح أعلى الخف وأسفله وفي إسناده ضعف. And hadith number 55 وعن علي رضي الله تعالى عنه قال لو كان الدين بالرأي لكان أسفل الخف أولى بالمسح من أعلاه وقد رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يمسح على ظاهر خفيه. Now that we've already concluded that wiping over the khuffain is permissible, we go on to the next matter. How do I wipe over this khuf? Or where do I wipe? Then the answer, based upon hadith number 54 and 55, that the Prophet ﷺ in hadith number 54, supposedly he would wipe over the upper portion of his khuf and the asfal and the under portion. This hadith is weak. This hadith is not to be practiced upon. Ibn Hajar brought this hadith in the book to show us and allow the student of knowledge the knowledge that this hadith is weak. Allow him the opportunity to know that this hadith is weak and you only wipe on the upper portion of your khuffain. As hadith number 55 states, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anh said that if the religion was based upon solely your aql, then it would make more sense that we wipe on the under portion of the khuf as opposed to the upper portion. Why? Because the under portion is that which is touching the filth. The under portion is the one which might be dirtied as opposed to the upper portion. But I saw the Prophet ﷺ wipe the upper portion of his khuf, so that is what we do. And that is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The question, what amount of the upper portion of the khuf should I wipe? If I took one finger and wiped over it, would that suffice? Do I have to wet the entire upper portion of my khuf? Then the answer is that majority of the scholars state that it is the majority of your khuf. That the most portion of your khuf, you need to wipe over it. That majority of it should be wiped over and that would suffice. Not that every single inch of the upper portion of your khuf requires being wiped over, just majority, the most portion of it. Can a person, after taking his tayammum, he has no water, so he makes tayammum and he puts on this khuffain. He's put it on in a state of tahara. So when he finds water, can he wipe over this khuffain? The answer is no. Why? Because the purification that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about here is the purification of water. That after a purification of water, you put on your khuffain, then the next time you can wipe over this khuffain. Not a purification with sand, not your tayammum. Lastly, what happens with jawrabain? What about my nylon socks? What about my cotton and woolen socks? Is it permissible for me to wipe over them? Then the answer is yes. Based upon the hadith recorded by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad and Imam At-Tirmidhi, that the Prophet ﷺ tawadda wa masaha ala al-jawrabain, that the Prophet ﷺ he took a wudu and he wiped over his jawrabain, which are either woolen socks or cotton socks. This hadith recorded by Imam Ahmad and Imam At-Tirmidhi. The scholars have differed with regards to his authenticity. The Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah, he has a book on this topic dealing with this matter and he regards those ahadith to be authentic, and many other scholars are of the opinion that they are authentic, so then they would say it is permissible. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he was of the opinion that those ahadith are not authentic, but he still held it permissible to wipe over the jawrabain. Based upon what? Based upon the practice of the Sahaba, that we have that Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala an, Anas radiallahu an, Bilal radiallahu ta'ala an, about 9 of the Sahaba, we have narrations from them that they would wipe over their jawrabain. And Ibn Qudama in his Mughni, he stated ijma of the Sahaba, consensus of the Sahaba, that they would allow wiping over the Jawrabain. And as some of the Sahaba said, that there is no difference between the Khuffain, which is made out of leather, and my Jawrabain, which is made out of wool. That one is just made out of leather and one made out of wool. Both of them are foot coverings, and it will be permissible upon both of them. The only issue that we would say not permissible is like the female who wears stockings, which are extremely see-through, which are transparent, which are extremely light. This would not be permissible for the Muslim to wipe over. The male who has extremely thin socks, maybe silk socks, we would say not permissible to wipe over those type of socks. If it is reasonably thick, if it is decent enough for you to wear, if it has some sort of thickness and not see-through, then it will be permissible, inshallah, for you to wipe over those Jawrabain. Hadith number 56 and 57. وعن صفوان بن عسال رضي الله تعالى عنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يأمرنا إذا كنا سفرا ألا ننزع خفافنا 3 أيام ولياليهن إلا من جنابة ولكن من غائط وبول ونوم. And hadith number 57. وعن علي رضي الله تعالى عنه قال جعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم 3 أيام ولياليهن للمسافر ويوما وليلة للمقيم يعني في المسح على الخفين رواه مسلم. These two are hadith dealing with the matter of the time period for the musafir and the muqim. That when I put on this khufain, can I wipe over it for a week? For 10 weeks? For a month? The answer is no. There is a condition with regards to the time period. Then hadith number 56 states, the Prophet ﷺ used to order us when we went out on a journey that it was permissible for us to wipe over our khufain 3 days with its nights. 3 days and 3 nights we were permitted to wipe over this Jawrabain or this khufain, except for janaba. Except if we were in a state of janaba, then we needed to remove it and we needed to take a ghusl. So we gauge that wiping over the khufain is allowed for your hadath al-asghar, for your small type of hadath, for your small type of purification. As for your ghusl, then you require removing of the khufain. وَلَكِنْ مِنْ غَائِطْ وَبَوْلٍ. If a person visited the toilet, then it would be permissible for him after this, when he is taking his purification, for him to wipe over his khufain. He is not required to remove his khufain. And hadith number 57. جعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم 3 أيام ولياليهن للمسافر. For the traveler, like in the previous hadith when those Sahaba were out on a journey, 3 days and 3 nights for the musafir. As for the muqim, then he is given the concession for only 1 day and 1 night, 24 hours. The question, when does the time period begin? We know that the musafir 3 days, 3 nights. We know that the muqim 1 day and 1 night. But when does my time period start? Is it when I put on the khufain? Is it when I break my wudu after putting on my khufain? Or is it when I wipe over my khufain? 3 opinions of the scholars. Understand the matter. Here is Sulaiman. He awakes at 6 o'clock in the morning. He takes a complete wudu and then he puts on his khufain. Does his time period begin at 6 a.m. or does it begin at 8 a.m. when he visited the toilet and he broke his wudu? Or does it begin at 11 a.m. when he took his first wudu and wiped over his khufain the first time? Which opinion is the correct opinion, inshallah? Then the answer is the last. The first time that the Muslim wipes over his khufain. In reality, if you have to look at it from a time period manner or angle, then that opinion grants you the most hours. That here is Sulaiman, awakes at 6, takes a wudu, puts on his khufain, 8 o'clock he visits the toilet, and at 11, that's the time before Salatul Zuhr, he takes his wudu and he wipes over his khufain. That's the first time that he starts making use of this concession. That's when his time period begins, inshallah. 2 more questions. What happens if while I am in the state that I have wiped over my khufain and then I remove the khuffain. I have an itch on my foot and I remove this khuffain. Is my wudu broken? According to majority of the scholars, the answer is yes. Your wudu is broken. Why? Because they say that you have now separated between yourself and your tahara. It is as if your tahara is on this khuffain, and while you are wearing this khuffain, you are joined with your tahara. But when you remove the khuffain and you throw it on the side, you are here and your tahara is on the side, on that khuffain. You have broken between yourself and your tahara, so you require taking a fresh wudu, and this is the opinion of majority of the scholars. Some of the Maliki scholars, they said no. If you remove your khuffain, you just need to go and wash your feet, put them back on, and everything would be in order. But remember, we laid down the condition of muwalat, of continuation in your wudu. In the hadith wherein the person had come to the Prophet ﷺ, he had that portion left dry on his foot. Prophet ﷺ told him to repeat his wudu. So from that hadith we state that the opinion of the Maliki scholars will not be the correct opinion in this matter. Why? Because some of your wudu was taken and done at 9 o'clock and the rest of it at 12 o'clock. There was such a long break involved. That is the least strongest opinion. And the last opinion is that your wudu is fine and there is nothing that you require doing. That Muhammad, he had wiped over his khuffain, he had removed his khuffain for 10 minutes, and then he performs his salah. According to some of the scholars like Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah and many others, they state that this person's wudu is fine and there is nothing that he requires doing. Why? They said, well, don't you see that if the Muslim takes his wudu and he wipes over his hair, and then he goes to the barber shop and he removes all his hair, so his tahara was on his hair. So they state that nobody says, and consensus of the scholars, that this man's wudu is fine and perfect and he does not require taking a fresh wudu. So the same would apply to the khuffain, that if you remove it, there is no problem in the matter. And that is the opinion of those scholars. And they also say that for you to show us that something breaks my wudu, you need to bring a text from the Quran, or you need to bring something authentic from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And we don't find any hadith which says removal of khuffain is something which breaks the wudu. We know that going to the toilet breaks wudu. We know that a person having intercourse with his wife is something which breaks his wudu and his ghusl. But we don't find any proof that removal of khuffain is something which also breaks the wudu. And based upon this mas'ala, the scholars differed in the next mas'ala. Then what happens when my 24 hours are up? Or what happens to the musafir when his 3 days and 3 nights are up? When this clock strikes that time, is his wudu broken, or does he still have his wudu? Then the scholars differed accordingly into those three opinions. The first, majority of the scholars, that you require taking a fresh wudu. The second opinion of the Maliki scholars, you just require washing your feet. And number three, Shaykh al-Albani and many other scholars, that your wudu is fine. We do not have any proof that your wudu is broken. So they state that your wudu is intact. The safest opinion for the Muslim, inshallah, is the opinion of majority of the scholars. And that does not mean that the scholars who went with the third opinion, that your wudu is fine, that their opinion is weak. La, it is a very, very, very strong opinion. But we say removal of doubt and staying away from the khilaf of the scholars, that the ahwat, the safest opinion, is the opinion of majority of the scholars, that you require taking a fresh, complete wudu. Also, this hadith is proof that the person who sleeps, min gha'it wa bawl wa nawm, that the Prophet ﷺ said that this wiping over the khuffain can benefit you. The concession is available if you go to the toilet and if you had slept. That sleep is something which breaks a person's wudu. We will go into greater detail with regards to what type of sleep breaks the wudu in the next chapter, inshaAllah. We will return after a break of 5 minutes. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.